As I started getting over the shock of realizing 62 might actually be an option, I began asking a completely different question. Not just can I retire, but what would retirement actually look like? Because for the most of my life, 65 was the number. It was the goal. It was the plan. You work your whole life, you hit 65, somebody gives you a wonderful sheet cake, and suddenly you're supposed to know what to do with yourself. But for me, suddenly I was sitting there with 62 as a real possibility. So I started running different retirement budget scenarios to see if retiring at 62 was actually realistic, or if 65 was still the magic number after all. And as I started thinking through what retirement might actually look like, three different budgets naturally came together for me: a bare bones budget, a real life budget, and then that ideal freedom budget. The first budget I built was what I called the bare bones budget. Basically, what do we need? Not cruises, not dream vacations. No, let's spend 3 weeks in Italy discovering ourselves. No, just can we survive without me working? And one thing I realized very quickly: retirement doesn't magically erase expenses. Even if the mortgage is paid off, that house bill, it still keeps coming. All of them. Property taxes. Did you know that property taxes don't care if I'm retired or you're retired? They still show up every year. And then there's the house insurance. Insurance is a necessary protection. And guess what? It just keeps costing more and more. Apparently, the retirement plan is generally work for your whole life, pay off the house, and then keep mailing checks anyway on the house. Because another cost that I needed to predict was utilities. Because when you retire, guess what? I'm home more, which sounds great until you realize that somebody else is now using electricity all day. Lights are on, the TV's on more, heat's on more, air conditioning's on more. You work, you do things, you have to shower more dishes get used, there's more flushing of the great grand toilet, and suddenly the internet bill becomes a critical infrastructure. Because if that Wi-Fi goes down, the entire idea of retirement might be over. And apparently, once you're home more, the thermostat becomes a relationship discussion between you and your wife and anyone else that lives in the house. Uh, and then there's all the maintenance. Did you know that roofs apparently have retirement plans too? Because eventually they decide they are done and they want a replacement. The paint, it fades. All these appliances already, they start making these sounds that sound very expensive. And somehow the water heater always seems to quit at the absolute worst possible time. So apparently houses, they don't retire either, which means we start having conversations like, how much house do we really need? And how much house do we really want to maintain and pay for? Because we have to do that over the next, hopefully, 30 plus years. Have you actually looked at what your house costs every year, even without a mortgage? So the next expense that came to mind was health insurance. And this is when some uncertainty arrived for me because before Medicare kicks in, healthcare can feel like another house payment. And for us, everything I've looked at, the estimate is $2,500 a month, which is about the moment that I personally started looking at my spreadsheets and I was getting personally offended by no matter what numbers I put in, how was this going to work? But eventually, and thankfully, what the worst case scenarios showed is that in the barefoot bones budget, we can survive. We break even. It looks solid. And honestly, that was a big relief. It gave me some confidence and hope to delve into the next possible budget, which was our real life budget that we were hoping. So I plugged in what I was hoping the actual budget would be, and I became fairly anxious because I really wanted it to remove all my doubts. Because retirement still needs to feel like living, not just existing. We want to travel together as a couple. We want to travel with family and friends. We want to go see more of this country. We want to go see more of the world. And we are cruisers. We enjoy cruising. And we want to do that. And we want to keep exploring in different ways. We want to make memories. And honestly, not slowly become housebound couch potatoes who sit around staring at the TV, waiting for bedtime. Maybe actually eat out once in a while. without acting like we're making a terrible financial decision over mozzarella sticks. Because what's the point of retirement? If life becomes nothing but restriction, what things would you refuse to give up in retirement? And this is where things started getting really interesting for me. Because as I worked through the real life budget, it started looking like there were really three possible ways to make it work, to give this budget a chance to succeed. The first option was to increase the withdrawal rate from our retirement savings. Instead of staying around the traditional 4% rule, we might have to use 5% or push it to 6%. We might even be able to go to 7% during strong market years. And suddenly I found myself asking questions like, how conservative do we really need to be? And that gets a little nerve-wracking because on paper, higher withdrawals can make retirement look fantastic until the market suddenly decides to remind everybody who's boss. And recently, it's been down 10, 15%, and then suddenly popped up 11, 12%, and back into the positive. The second option is to look at Social Security. Do I take it earlier? Because once Social Security enters the picture, the pressure on investments will change dramatically. But I'm trying to avoid that one. I'm trying to wait till 67, at least. And so the question is, do I take it earlier and enjoy more freedom now, or do I wait until 67 for the larger monthly check? Because waiting potentially locks in about another $1,000 per month for life. And that's hard to ignore, especially when you start thinking about one spouse potentially outliving the other someday. And I'm old. She's young. That led to the third option. And it's probably one that excites me the most, is helping my wife grow her health coaching business, because her business is already growing. People are getting healthier, lives are changing, she's making a difference, we're healthier. And maybe retirement for me doesn't mean stop working completely. Maybe it means that I work differently, working with more freedom, more flexibility, more purpose. And once again, I could probably do that, a little part-time work here and there if needed, just to fund our travel desires, which honestly sounds a lot more fun than working to just pay bills. Because there's a big difference between I have to work to we want a little extra cruise money. And maybe that's another thing retirement changes. Work stops becoming survival. For me, I think it starts becoming an optional opportunity. I can't help but take a moment here and ask you, what would you do? What have you done? What questions should I be asking right now? And please follow along with me. Share your thoughts and experiences. Press that like button, subscribe, because you're not alone out there in figuring this out. And as I continue working through all these scenarios and possibilities, I want to share them with you. I want to share with you that what I realized at this point is that retirement decisions don't happen in a vacuum, because life keeps changing. While you're trying to plan for it, I'm planning for all these contingencies. All of a sudden, my parents are getting older. I'm turning into a caregiver, and I'm seeing that happen right now. They have doctor's appointments. There's more phone calls just to connect. There's more helping with things that they used to handle all the time. And sometimes just wanting to spend more time with them while I still can. Then suddenly kids, they might move back in with you. Two of mine have temporarily, which apparently means retirement planning can quickly turn into, wait, why did the grocery bill suddenly decide to go up? And somehow, how's the laundry machines start running like they're commercial laundry machines? They're never ending. And then people fall in love and they want to get married. My daughter is getting married shortly, in just a few weeks, and which is absolutely exciting and beautiful. But it's also a reminder for us that life events definitely come with a price tag. And then you have grandkids, and those times with them are so precious because it is zooming by. They are growing like weeds, as they say, taller, bigger, from mumbling to talking. And then suddenly, you just don't think about retirement as escaping work anymore. You start to think about it as being availability, to be able to be present, to be able to go to all these different events, to take random trips, go to the store just out of the blue, go to Costco, go to the park. And what happens is unexpected expenses comes along with those, because the car is going to break down, the house is going to have issues, life is going to have issues with health and aches and pains. And somehow it always seems to happen about 3 days after you start feeling financially confident again. And so suddenly you're back to planning for retirement. And it's family planning. That's what's really become apparent for me. Congratulations. Now everybody needs something from you because you're home. And that's something many people have mentioned has happened to them. Once they retire, all of a sudden retirement clearly is not an individual decision, because it really does truly affect everybody. Have your family responsibilities changed your retirement thinking? They have for me. At first it was just me. Then it was my wife. Then it's my kids. Then it's my family. Then it's my parents. And the more I realized retirement, it isn't just financial. It's about time. It's about freedom. It's about my level of energy and ability to be present. And maybe that matters more than maximizing every dollar. So I ask you, what matters more to you right now? Money or time? Because for me, the real life budget became the middle ground. It wasn't fear. It wasn't fantasy. It was just, what will retirement life actually, probably, maybe, it seems like it's going to look like? The real budget, I threw it into several different calculators out there for retirement, and it shows that roughly it has an 85 to 95% chance of success of lasting through 30 years. After that, no guarantees. So it started looking like a very viable option as well. Next, I took a deep breath. We had some conversations, and we laid out all our different dreams, and the freedom budget began to form. The freedom budget, it's about experiences. Lots of travel, lots of cruising, being able to be flexible and spontaneously spend time together, to go somewhere together, not just existing, but complete, real living in the moment. And one thought kept hitting me that I've heard over and over, that as you approach the age of 62, you really only have about 1,000 weeks statistically of high energy, good mobility. And so those first years of retirement statistically will be our healthiest. They will be when we can be the most active, when we can be the most capable, and eventually all of that will change. And so all of a sudden, when 62 was shown as an option and seems viable, we're talking about 3 additional years of those 1,000 weeks. We're talking about 15, maybe even 20% of the time would be freed up. And that's a huge amount. That's a huge choice. That's a huge decision. And eventually that changes, which creates a strange question. Are we saving money, or are we accidentally postponing life, depending on when we decide to retire? Because there's a probability that a point in time will come when money is going to matter less, and actually being able to do things, to do them, will matter. There are a lot of things that my parents right now no longer can do. They can no longer experience. So I ask you again, what experiences are you hoping to have in retirement? Because my biggest question that's been playing over and over and over in my head for almost 2 years now is, what am I going to do? Which now slowly started changing into, what do I do? What do I want to do? And what am I retiring to? Because retirement without purpose, honestly, because retirement without purpose sounds kind of depressing to me. So maybe it's woodworking. Maybe it's traveling. Maybe it's helping my wife with her business. Maybe it's a YouTube channel or creating videos like this and sharing my journey. Maybe it's learning completely new things. Maybe it's finally organizing the garage, the way I've told myself I was going to for the last 15, 20 years. And I don't fully know yet, but I think that's okay. I've broken through that that's okay. I ask you, what would give your retirement meaning? What are you retiring to? This entire channel, this entire journey here that I chose is not because I have figured out retirement. It's me figuring it out. It's me going through lots of questions. It's me looking at the numbers. It's me looking at the trade-offs. It's me trying to overcome my fear with and balance with my excitement. It's those random spreadsheet spiral at 11:30 at night. It's all of it. And so if those type of conversations around retirement, money, time, and purpose and real life decisions are interesting to you, I'd ask you to hit like on this video, and I'd ask you to subscribe and follow along with me through this journey. And if you're somewhere in this journey too, whether retirement feels close, whether it feels impossible, whether it's exciting or terrifying, you're not alone.